Hello, I'm Brian Foster. Today I'm talking about Spiritism, and we are live streaming today, March 27th, 2022. And we are going through the Spiritist Review of 1859. Now, before I begin, if you are interested in learning more about Spiritism, may I suggest you download from my blog site, nwspiritism.com, Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation. It is in PDF form, it's free. Of course, it's also in paperback, Kindle, and in Audible format. So it will give you a quick overview of Spiritism. It's only 100 pages. Kindle, it's like 99 cents. So it's something that you can understand Spiritism about. So if you want to read more about Spiritism and read by Allan Kardec, the Spirit's book, which again you can find on PDF, just type in Allan Kardec space PDF. Now, before we begin talking about the Spiritist review of the Letters Beyond the Grave from Shadruklos, Diogenes, and about guardian angels, let us have a short prayer. Dear Jesus, please help lead us into learning about reincarnation, about karma, all covered under the tenets of Spiritism, shown to us by Allan Kardec in his codification in the 1850s. Please allow us to see who we are and what is our goal here on earth, so we may understand our true purpose. Amen. So today I'm going to talk about Letters Beyond the Grave, and let's get right into it. Let me show this to the screen. Okay. This is from, excuse me, Shadruklos. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so forgive me for that. And so now here they start really quick. There's usually like a preamble, but here they're just starting. So it starts with an evocation. And he says, I am here. Mr. Adrian, a clairvoyant medium who had never seen the spirit during its life, gave the following description, considered very accurate by those who were present and who knew it. Long face, willow cheeks, wrinkled and shaggy forehead, slightly aquiline and long nose, gray protruded eyes, median mocking mouth, a little pale complexion, gray hair and long beard, bigger rather than small build, frayed and worn out blue cloth jacket, old and rotten black pants, a colorless handkerchief replacing a tie. It must have been someone not in the best shape. Do you remember your latest earthly life? And the spirit answered, perfectly. Oh, number 3, what was the reason that led you to live such an eccentric life? The answer is, I was tired of life and felt sorry for people and their motivations. 4, some say it was vengeance and that you wanted to humiliate a relative in a better position. Is that true? Not only that, but by humiliating that man, I humiliated many others. If it was vengeance, then it cost you dearly, since it prevented you from enjoying all pleasures of social life for many years in order to satisfy that desire. Don't you find it a bit too harsh? And he answered, I enjoyed things differently. Was there a philosophical thought besides that? Would it be the reason why they compared you to Diogenes? And he answered, there was a relationship with the less healthy part of that man's philosophy. What do you think about Diogenes? And he answered, not much. In a lesser degree, it is the same that I think about myself. Diogenes had the advantage that he did what I did, but among people who were less civilized than my contemporaries. Then they asked another question, question 8. Nevertheless, there is a difference between you and Diogenes. His behavior was a consequence of his philosophical system, whilst yours was led by vengeance. And he answered, vengeance led me to philosophy. So again, and I've seen spirits like this in other mediums meetings where they're a bit of a sophist, right? Where they can argue things. They're in the wrong because, first of all, vengeance leading you to philosophy is a very thin blanket to lie under. He did that in order to humiliate and get back at people. So he looked poor, he looked eccentric, and he tried to embarrass someone richer than he was. And from that, he goes, well, it's not so bad doing this. That's really the wrong way of doing it. That is called complete rationalization. That is not a true enlightenment. Number 9. But sometimes these enlightenments can help. So more power to them. Did you suffer by being so isolated, for being the object of neglect and disdain, and for the fact that your education separated you both from the hobos and from the educated people? Ah, I knew that we have no friends on earth. Ah, how much I experienced that. Well, he kind of did that himself. What do you currently do, and how do you spend your time? I visit better worlds and enlighten myself. There are many good souls there who reveal the celestial science to the spirits of us. Also, maybe he's higher than I think. If he visits worlds and enlightens himself. Do you sometimes come to the Palais Royal after your death? Why would I bother with the Palais Royal? Among the persons attending this meeting, do you recognize some that you have met during your pilgrimage to the Palais Royal? And he said, how could I not recognize them? Does it please you to see them? It gives me pleasure, a great pleasure, really. They were good to me. Did you see your friend Charles Nodier? Yes, particularly after death. Is he errant or incarnate? Errant, like me, meaning errant, meaning that he's still in the spirit state. Why have you chosen the Palais Royal, then the most visited place in Paris, for your promenades? Wouldn't that be contrary to your taste for misanthropy? Because I saw everybody there every afternoon. Wouldn't that be a sentiment of pride? Yes, unfortunately, pride had an important participation in my life. Are you happier now? Oh, yes. Number 19, how your lifestyle must not have contributed to your betterment. That terrain life, much more than you imagine. Wouldn't I experience somber moments when returning home and isolated? I then had the opportunity to ruminate many thoughts. Number 20, if you had the opportunity to choose another experience, what would it be? It would not be on your earth. Today I can expect something better. So, evidently, although he started off with the wrong thought, through his experience, he became more enlightened, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to go to more superior worlds. So the spirit world probably knew what he's doing. They let him go into that position, and then use his own kind of pride. So he would try to humiliate his cousin or whoever it was, because they had money and he didn't have as much. But through that, he found true philosophy, it sounds like, because otherwise he wouldn't be where he is today. Number 21. Do you remember your existence before the last one? And he answered, yes, and others also. Where have you lived those existences? On Earth and other worlds. And the one before last? On Earth. Can you tell us about it? He answered, no, it was an obscure and occult life. Number 25. Without revealing that existence, could you tell us the relationship it holds to the one that we know, since one should be the consequence of the other? He answered, not exactly a consequence, but a complement. I led an unhappy life due to vices and defects, which were modified before I came to live the life that you know. So he's learned through his lives. Can we do anything useful or pleasant to you? Not much. I am now well above earth. Interesting. So now, here is Diogenes. So then they want to talk to Diogenes. So they evoked him. I come from far away. Number 2, can you show up to Mr. Adrian with the same looks you had in your existence, which is familiar to us? The answer is yes. And if you want, I can bring the lantern, Mr. Adrian. Wide forehead, pronounced frontal bones, aquiline and long nose. So he's showing what Diogenes looked way back then, and when he was in Greece. Large and serious mouth, suspicious black eyes. It shows a little elongated, skinny, and wrinkled face. Yellow skin, coarse beard and mustache, gray and rare hair. It wears white, very dirty clothes, naked arms and legs, skinny and bony body. So he made himself, through his Paris spirit, Diogenes, made himself look like he did when he was back in about 300 BC, when he talked to Alexander the Great. And of course, he was in Athens. You said you came from far away. From which world have you come? You don't know it. So before we begin with Diogenes, Diogenes is famous. So he was the philosopher that went through with the lantern looking for an honest man in Athens, which of course he never found. He was also famous. There's actually a picture of Alexander standing and Diogenes sitting. And the famous thing that happened is Alexander said, "Diogenes, what can I do for you?" Already he was kind of famous in Athens. And he says, "Well, you can stand, you can stand out of the way because the sun's not hitting me." Right? He goes, "I'm in shade because of you. Can you move over?" That's what people remember of Diogenes. He lived a very sparse existence. He didn't care about material goods or any of that. And of course, he was pretty famous. Okay, number 4. Would you kindly answer some questions? With pleasure, he said. Was the existence by which we know you by the name Diogenes, the cynic, useful to your future happiness? A lot. You are wrong by ridiculing it like my contemporary did. I'm actually surprised by the fact that history knows so little about my existence, and that posterity, one may say, is unfair to me. So really, we don't know that much about him, as he's saying. Number 6, what good were you able to do since your existence was so much self-serving? And he answered, I work for me, but others could have learned a lot from me. So what he's saying is he taught people by being an example that you don't need all these goods. And especially in Athens back then, right? You had slaves, you had all these type of things. Number 7, which qualities would you have liked to have found in the man you look for with your torch? Firmness, he said. Have you encountered Cedric Duclos, the man we just evoked? Would you have taken him by the man you were looking for? He also voluntarily renounced to everything that seemed superfluous. Sorry about that. He answered, no. What do you think about him? And he says, his soul was corrupted on earth. How many are like him? I don't know. At least he knew. Do you think you had the qualities which you were looking for in man? No doubt. I had my criterion. Number 11, which philosopher of your time had your preference? Socrates. Who do you prefer now? Socrates. And he said, so Socrates was great. Anybody would like to read something really good, read the Dialogues of Socrates. Of course, that was written by, recorded, I would say, by Plato. Probably embellished, too. Now, he also, number 30, how about Plato? He says, too harsh. His philosophy is too strict. I admitted the poets. He didn't. Now, an interesting story of Plato. They say that Allan Kardec, in a previous life, besides being Allan Kardec, which was the name of a Druid priest, he was also Plato. Number 14. Is it true what they say about your interview with Alexander, which is Alexander the Great? Very true. History has even truncated it. What is that history is truncated? I refer to the conversation between the two of us. Do you really think that he came to see me to tell me one word only? Number 16. Is the statement attributed to him that if you're not Alexander, he would be Diogenes? He might have said that, but not in my presence. Alexander was a crazy, vain, and proud young man. In his eyes, I saw nothing more than a beggar. How could the tyrant be educated by the miserable? Of course. Now, so here you're thinking Alexander the Great, a great conqueror. And Diogenes says, he's crazy, vain, and proud. And it shows you the difference of our point of view on earth. To us, he's famous beyond belief. I grew up idolizing Alexander the Great. And in fact, some spiritists say Alexander the Great reincarnated as Caesar, and then reincarnated as Napoleon, all great military geniuses. But is that important to be military geniuses, to conquer and kill? No. And you have to, in order to do that, to conquer and kill and hurt the lives of many people. Remember, Alexander was a time when, when he went through and conquered a city, he would enslave everybody in that city, so the next cities would surrender to him much quicker. Very efficient, but a very mean way. So, of course, You cannot say Diogenes was wrong. He was vain and proud. Number 17, have you reincarnated on Earth after your life in Athens? No, but in other worlds. I currently belong to a world in which we are not slaves. It means if you are invoked in a state of vigil, you cannot attend the request as I do tonight. Now, this is where a sentence could really opens up of what the spirit world is telling us, because there, what is revealed in the spirit world. You have to like sift through all the little signs and signals, and they say everything, and it's up to us to find them out. So he said, I currently belong to a world in which we're not slaves, which implies that on Earth we are a slave. Now, why does he say that? Well, he said, it means that if you were evoked, that you cannot attend a request. So let's talk about that for a second. So on the Earth, we are in a planet of atonement. Wait, let me do this one question. I just saw this. I saw on some site saying that Vladimir Putin is Julius Caesar reincarnated. What do you think? Interesting. See, now, these Spiritism says you should not care of who was what and where in previous lives. It's not important. But of course, us being human, we love this game. And so what do I think? I think it's interesting. Especially when you think that Julius Caesar was Napoleon and Alexander the Great. So you never know about these things. Yeah, Mussolini was Pompeius Magnus, Pompey the Great, is what Chico Xavier said, which is always interesting. Interesting. But these are more amusing ideas, but of course they're fun. So anyway, I was saying about Diogenes. So he says that he belongs to a world which are not slaves. So this is, I think we should talk about what he meant. He is talking to us and to that group that was on Earth in the 1850s. He knew that Earth was a planet of atonement, and he was talking from a superior world. And he was talking like a postgraduate, where the postgraduate selects what he's going to research, right? Selects, has so much more freedom what he's going to do. Talks to professors all the time, right? Compared to someone in junior high or beginning high school, where you're assigned a class curriculum, you don't have the freedom. You're not in touch with the spirit world. You're not in touch with the principle, right? Whereas the the teachers mostly tell you what to do. Whereas a postgraduate, you kind of lead, and then you in consultation decide what you're going to do on your research. And that shows you the difference of what we experience here on Earth compared to what people experience in superior planets. What do I mean by that? So when people say, there's complete fatalism, it's predetermination. What happens to you, it happens. You can't stop it. Well, no. And the spirit world tells us over and over again, you have free will. Now, they don't say that your free will is really limited, but what they do say is you have choices in all your trials and tribulations. And let me say that in what I think is my interpretation of the amount of our free will. I would think 99% of the time, I could be wrong on the percent, but I think the vast majority of the time, the trials and tribulations that are going to hit us, meaning that car accident you had, the marriage that you had, the rotten divorce that you had, the jobs that you have, are all been predetermined as a plan in your blueprint, your project plan for your life on Earth. So because the spirit world, and if you're in heaven, in consultation with you, if you're in the lower zone or below, they made the plan, you have no input. So they can rip out your primitive emotions, and you can improve yourself with more advanced emotions. And when he's saying you're a slave, he's saying you've got to do what they tell you to do. That doesn't mean you have to make the choices of what they tell you to do, right? You can learn from your trials and tribulations. You can make good choices. You can always be nice to people, even though the world around you is disintegrating. That's your freedom of action. Your freedom of action is like a 4-year-old. They can roam around the living room, and you've got the wall sockets plugged with those safety things, and you've got little gates so they can't go upstairs, right? And of course, they don't realize that, the limit, that's just to them. That's the whole world. Same with us. We're limited. Now, as you go to a higher planet, and we're told this in the works by Allan Kardec and other Spiritist authors, mediums, I should say, you have more and more freedom, true freedom of action. You can be born, and in consultation why you are in life on a superior planet, you can say, oh, I think I want to research this, or I want to do that. And they go, yeah, that's a good idea. And therefore, just like you treat a more mature child who then becomes in high school and then in college, they have more and more freedom and more range for their own decisions. So do we as immature spirits, as we become more and more mature, as Diogenes did, have more freedom of action. And that's why when people say, I hate my life, I never want to be reincarnated again. And that's because they've gone through difficult trials. And I don't blame them. We all have times like that. But the answer is, if you try and do as well as you can and try and transform your character and your attitude to be less prideful, less selfish, then you can graduate to a higher world. Diogenes did. Many people did. Mozart did. So that's the secret. If you don't like being incarnated on a planet of atonement, do better. Study Spiritism. Learn about how you can improve yourself. In fact, one of the books that I have is How to Improve Yourself. And this was a poem by a spirit, Andre Louis. And what he wrote a poem, like 24 stanzas, and short stanzas. But I took each stanza and I said, okay, what does he mean by that stanza? And one builds up the other. It's how to live inner peace through Spiritism. And I'd recommend, and of course, you get that book on Kindle, paperback, or Audible format. And it really goes through what you need to do here on Earth. And I take how you can do it, and I take writings from other Spiritist authors, John de Angelis, Chico Xavier, many others, of how you can achieve these in successive states. So while on Earth, in your next life, you can graduate to a superior, a better planet than Earth. These are things worth thinking about and fighting for, and allocating some of your time for. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, let's go number 18. Number 18, could you delineate to us the qualities that you're looking for in man, how you conceived it then and how you conceive it now? He goes, in the past, courage, boldness, self-confidence, and power over people by intelligence. Now, abnegation, kindness, and power over people by heart, which is exactly what a Spiritist would say, right? What Jesus, I think, say is humbleness, the ability to serve, being kind, compassion, and you win over people by your empathy and your self-evident love of them. Where when he was on Earth, it was like, okay, people follow a leader, and how we still think a lot here. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. So I thought, to me, just in summary, I thought what Diogenes said was very revealing, and the fact that he called us, slaves on Earth. It just shows you the enhanced, environment that you'll live in, and range of thought and deeds of what you will be as you go higher and higher in the spirit hierarchy. Because that's what the spirit world wants for us, right? The spirit world wants us to graduate from Earth to go to the next, and graduate from the levels of heaven, like around the earth, and be a productive member of spirit society. What do I mean by a productive member of spirit society? Spirits who come back after they learn how to control their mind, manipulate their objects, right? They can use universal fluid to create what they want. They can help guide whole races and the genetics of flora and fauna. And they do that to go back to these campuses like Earth and other planets to help raise spirits. And I'm sure there's other jobs too. But these are some. It's like you graduate from college as a teacher degree. You come back to school and you help teach those at the same place you were at school. Okay, now the guardian angel, spontaneous communication obtained by Mr. L, a medium of society. I'll read it. There is a doctrine that should convert the most incredulous for its enhancements and kindness. This is related to the subject concerning guardian angels. Just think about the fact that you have near you beings who are your superiors, who are there to counsel you, to sustain you, to help you escalate the difficult mountain of righteousness, who are more certain and dedicated friends than the most intimate relationships that you can establish on earth. Isn't that a consoling idea? Those beings are there following God's orders. It was God who placed them by your side. They are there out of love for God, thus accomplishing a beautiful and tough mission. Yes, they will be with you wherever you go, the dungeons, the hospitals, the places of mockery, the solitude. Nothing separates you from those friends that you don't see, but whose kind impulses your soul feels, hearing their wise advices. Had you known this reality better, how many times would that help you at a moment of crisis? How many times would that save you from the hands of bad spirits? However, on this great day, this angel of goodness may tell you, haven't I told you, and you did not do it? Haven't I shown you the abyss, and you fell into that? Haven't I made you hear the voice of truth in your conscience? Nevertheless, you follow the advices of lie. And, you could say, this is us right now. We have our current culture and society and our mainstream media just bombarding us with the advices of lies, the great lies. They tell us we need to buy to be happy. Take this pill, make you happy, make you well, but you don't need to be well. You just need to eat and live better. Hate these people because, we don't like them and we want power over them. These things, you cannot believe any of this. You make up your own mind, search out your own resources. Do not believe that which the elite wishes you to believe, because they are only interested in maintaining power. And this is what Diogenes knew. Power on earth is nothing. That mansion on earth, that huge yacht on earth, that Ferrari on earth, it's nothing. It will all decay eventually. It will be nothing. While you are immortal and you will live forever, you will never grow old. You'll never get sick. What's the most important thing on earth is becoming a better person, learning to live by your conscience, right? When he said, haven't I made you hear the voice of truth in your conscience? Your conscience, that is what you need to work on. I know we go through teenage years and early 20s and maybe even beyond, where we learn to rationalize away our conscience because, it's going to give you a little bit of pleasure. And when you're young and selfish, you haven't learned that. At least people like me. I'm sure there's very superior people that have been well-behaved, wonderful people from the very beginning. I wasn't. So this is why you're here on earth, is to learn to listen to your conscience. The conscience is given to us, and to each human on earth, every human, even those you think that are a complete psychopath, they have it. They don't listen to it at all. They've trained themselves not even to listen to it. It may take multiple lives before they do, but the spirit world will find a way to have them start listening to their conscience. They will do that. They may have to go through really tough trials, but they will learn. You don't have to get revenge on them yourselves. But that's why we're here, is to be completely self-disciplined, superior thinkers, and intellectuals with wisdom and love. That's a hard combination. So we can rise in the spirit world. Let me carry on. Interrogate your guardian angels. Establish with them this fond intimacy that reigns among the best of friends. Think of not hiding anything from them, since theirs is God's eyes, and you cannot deceive them. Think of the future and endeavor to advance in this life. Thus your trials will be shorter and your existences happier. And which says advance this life, advance in the spirit life. And because, remember, karma, so for every action, there's a reaction. For the more good and the better you are in this life, the less strenuous will be the trials in your next life. And he says, thus your trials will be shorter and your existence is happier. I always tell people, well, if you want, look, you're going to reincarnate. You can go to the spirit world and you can say, no, I don't want to reincarnate if you go in heaven. And they'll say, okay, you can stay here as long as you want. But at some point in time, you want to improve yourself and go up the spiritual ladder. You will reincarnate. We're imbued with this thirst to advance. So get on the program now. Learn, read, and study Spiritism. Understand what you really are doing here on Earth. What is really important. Not that Gucci bag, not those new tennis shoes. It's your mind is important. Okay, go people, courage. Cast away your prejudices and hidden thoughts once and for all. Take the new path that opens up before you. March on, since you have guides that you must follow. The target cannot frustrate you, for the target is God himself. Those who think it is impossible for elevated spirits to attach themselves to such a laborious and constant task, we say that we influence your souls even by being millions of miles away from you. So let me talk about that. So we think of our guardian angel, kind of like that cartoon where we have our good angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, right? And there is no devil, and so we think the guardian angel is next to us. Now, that can happen sometimes and they may do that if they look ahead and see on our future, because they're pretty high spirits. They can see, oh, okay, yeah, well, next week that person's going to pretty hard trials. I might be on site for that one. But they may be millions, billions, trillions light years away on other planets. Diogenes may be a guardian angel for some human here on Earth. Now, what happens is that there is a connection between you and your guardian angel. Your guardian spirit is always apprised of what you're doing if they focus in on that. And there are probably alarm systems where they can say, hey, this is coming up. Now, they can also enlist other spirits that are on the ground to help you through tough times or to give you inspiration and all that. But you're always connected. Now, remember, there is no such thing really as distance in the spirit world. It's presence or absence. And when the high spirit said there's only presence or absence, that should give you a clue of what is the spirit realm. Really, what is, and remember, our physical realm is a subset of the spirit realm. So either you are in that environment or you are not. And so that person, that's the guardian angel, is on another planet, which means his parameters are set where he is in this mode of where he is interacting with other people in the same environment as he or she is. But a message can come in from a spirit who is tuned into a different environment. So just think about data from one place to another place. Think about your video game your game that you have on your cell phone, and you've got a person on an island, and then they chat or connect with a person in a castle, let's say. Well, on your cell phone, the person on an island and that person on the castle, there's some distance between them, right? And it looks like there's, maybe mountains and seas, whatever, between them. But in reality, it's all logic. It's all a set of parameters of this character is now in this environment and that character is in that environment, but there's still a connection between them and they can send messages back and forth. It's no different in the spirit world. That's why I believe that we live in this vast, complex matrix of data all around us. And we, as encapsulated personalities, depending on our level of which we are allowed to do, meaning our maturity, our spiritual maturity, we can roam that database, we can query data, we can change our environment, we can change our parameters once we have proven ourselves. Now, I don't think we can change our parameters completely. Superior spirits will evaluate us and tell us what we can and can't do, what level we can. Just as they say with spirits, spirits can roam their own level and below, but they can't go higher. It all makes sense when you start looking at this and the power that spirits have. Okay. We enjoy faculties that you cannot understand, but be assured that God has not imposed upon us a burden beyond our strength, and that God did not abandon you without friends and support on earth. Each guardian angel has his own protege, who it watches like a father over the son. It is happy when it sees a child following a good path and suffers when its advices are neglected. And of course, I've read in other spiritual literature is that, it goes, hey, angels do cry, and they usually cry because their protege is like having a tough time and has made every bad decision possible. I am sure my poor guardian angel looked at me in my younger days and they go, and maybe even now, like, oh my heavens, this, what am I going to do with this guy? What a loser. I feel sorry for him or her. Now, there's also a story of this one spirit that was told about his guardian angel. In fact, he had never met or knew who his guardian angel was until he was really at a very high level in heaven. And he was on this high level in heaven, and he felt like going into this mountain. He was to meditate. And he was at this mountaintop, and he was looking over a valley. And then the valley was kind of like the boundary between his level and the level above, and he could not get to that level above. Then he saw a spirit across the valley, and the spirit says, "Come over here." He goes, "Well, I can't. I can't exist in that." He goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll solve it." And he created a bridge over the valley, and the guy walked, and he goes, "Don't worry about it. I'm supporting you." And he found out this was his guardian angel, who's been with him through thick and thin for eons and eons. And he said, "Look, I've been with you. I've helped you when you did not know it." And then they had a good talk. And he was so happy and he felt so much love. And this is a superior spirit. This is like almost like we consider an angel. Even that angel felt happy and love from this even more superior spirit when he found out that this was his guardian angel. So we have guardian angels, not just when we're some, guy or woman on earth, but we have guardian angels even when we're in the spirit world. Every poor soul that's in the lower zone or the dark abyss, they too have their guardian angel who says, "Oh," and they're looking out. So when that person in the dark abyss, which is like a type of purgatory, there's no eternal damnation, finally says, "God or Jesus, please help me. I know what I've done is wrong." That guardian angel will notify other spirits to come and try and help that person out of their problem. Okay, I'll carry on. Don't be afraid of bothering us with your questions. On the contrary, be always in touch with us, since you will then be stronger and happier. What makes all people mediums are these communications between each person with their familiar spirit. Mediums who are ignored today, but who will manifest later, spreading like a boundless ocean to keep incredulity and ignorance away. Educated people educate. Talented people teach your brothers and sisters. You don't know the work that you accomplish by doing so. It is the work of Christ which God imposes upon you. Why would God have given you intelligence and science but to share with your brothers and sisters and make them advance in the path of the eternal venture and happiness? And that's from St. Louis and St. Augustine, both spirits, as they wrote this to mediums. And then Allan Kardec put that in his monthly Spiritist magazine. So we all have guardian angels. You all have someone there in every context. And the way to reach them is to sit and meditate, relax, take away your stress, and think, okay, guardian, please, what should I do? And when you think of the different options, because you can use advice from your guardian angel, but also use your own conscience. If you are in doubt of which path to take, which option to choose, take the option that makes you feel the best, make your body relaxed. Not what things that makes you most excited about getting something, but it makes your body the most relaxed. Because choices that are wrong or a little bit incorrect, you'll feel a little bit of stress and disharmony. Choices which are the correct ones, you'll feel your harmony and vibration improve. That's how your conscience works. Now, it can be very subtle. And then you ask your guardian angel for help. And then you never know. Your Aunt May or your Uncle Bob may call and go, oh, hey, there's this opportunity. And then your path is open. That's the way it works. These things, which are happenstances and synchronicities, many times, and of course, are not. They're planned as to help. Of course, that's what synchronicity is. Those are, as Carl Jung says, those are events planned by the spirit world to help you grow spiritually. And they happen all the time to us. We just think they're happenstances. We think it's just, oh, that's luck. No. The job you have, these things, the doors that close, the doors that open, usually are not luck or bad luck. They are opening and closing to guide you through the maze of where you should go. And that's why, as you accept and you learn and you study about Spiritism, you don't get frustrated when, I can't make this. And it's because they don't want you to. As an example, my wife and I wanted to build a house. And we went through and looked for, because we didn't like any of the houses we saw. We went through one vacant lot after another. Every time we tried to buy land, either we were just too late, or we found out that you can't put a sewer here, or you can't do this here, or no, you can't. It has to be, it can only be one story. Everything was against us. And finally, we said, okay, so we just tore down our house and built one on our own lot, which worked out fine. But we knew that was the spirit world said, no, you're gonna stay right where you are. So you never know. These things all happen. It's like I wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, when I was in high school. Well, in my senior year, my eyesight, I was out. I used to play baseball, and then in the outfield, I started missing. Easy fly balls, and of course, my dad goes, "I think I need to take you to the eye doctor." Which found out that I was missing him because I couldn't see him. That was it for me for the Air Force. So these are things. These are things that will happen to you too. That will be a reason why you're not allowed to do what you want to do. And they're all for the good. It's have faith. Have faith in the spirit world of what is planned for you. You may not like it on the surface. You might have to go through harder trials, but in the long run, just like you went through that hard class in 7th grade or 9th grade that you didn't like at the time, but when you look back, you go, oh, I learned from that. I learned from that teacher. You'll do the same with your life. Whatever's thrown at you, try to learn from it and improve from it. Anyway, I want to say thanks for being here today.